warm welcome to a Podful of Saints on Wednesday, the 29th of March, 2023, episode 34 in whatever season this is, whatever it is I just said. And we've got two games to reflect on, which we should do with the insightful knowledge of the non-league papers ace reporter Jake Ellacott.
Oh, you're on the wind-up now, Dave. Hello, everyone. And what a delightful few days it has been.
And Lee Wood, you used to write for the press as well, didn't you, Lee, some years back?
In the glory days, mate. Fellas, what a time to be alive. 2 wins on the spin. Hey, I've dropped my own body weight in rum. I've upset one of the chairmen. I've not upset Mrs. Wood. I get to spend the next half an hour talking to you two and nobbies at the wheel. What a time to be alive.
Yeah, it's 2 games to look back on, 2 wins. It's nothing but good news. Oh, well, I'm off. Right. Last Saturday, Dover Athletic at Clarence Park. They're on a bit of a bad run. They're getting sucked into trouble if they're not careful. Could be going for a second successive relegation. Our first victory over them, of course. All positive. Was the game itself that good?
Don't ask Lee. I don't think you can remember the game, can you, Lee?
It comes and goes, Jacob. You know, there's sort of fleeting memories. But on the whole, I think the first half I can remember fairly well. But it was solid enough, wasn't it, boys? It was solid enough. I thought Dover were poor, genuinely poor. I mean, I know they're on a bad run, but you know, there's teams in this league you should be at least be competitive. And I'm not entirely sure they were that, to be honest with you.
I don't know what you thought, Jake, but I thought they worked hard as hard as they could. But they had such limited ability, and it's difficult to see them getting out of this run that they're on at the moment. And I just felt, you said you couldn't remember much of the second half, Lee. Well, you're lucky, because unfortunately we tried to play possession football then, and we should have gone for them. We could have really built up our goal difference there, but it's difficult to knock it when we're back on a winning run again. We did the job just enough, and we got over the line. Over to you, Jake.
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? It reminds me a little bit of the game down at their place in December. But on that occasion, we only got a point when we probably could have comfortably won. But on Saturday, we won. Just again, probably should have been a bit more comfortably. Had some golden chances, especially second half. Devontae Stanley, you know, off the bar and off the post. Mitchell Weiss off the bar. Yeah, we probably made harder work of it than we should have in reality. But we won, didn't we? And in front of a big crowd on a good day, which was really, really important. And it always helps when the opposition get themselves, you know, reduced to 10 men pretty early on. That's always welcome. And then when they, you know, make sure of the result by reducing them down to single figures at the end of the game. So yeah, Dover weren't up to much. We probably should have won by more, but at the end of the day, 3 points, that's all that matters.
Yeah, that's sending off 18 minutes. When what's his name, Tyrone Sterling went. We were already a goal up. What a lovely goal by Mitch. What a delightful finish.
Brilliant. Absolutely. And it was a perfect start, wasn't it? That goal and then that red card, it really did seem like, okay, we're on for a good one today here. But yeah, I thought it was a red for me. I don't think the referee had much of an option. Amusingly, Tyrone Sterling, when he was shown the red, went up to the ref and said to him, no, it was in the penalty, ref. It was in the penalty area. It should be a yellow for me, and I don't send me off. Give them a penalty. But I think the ref had made his mind up.
I think Shea Cooper made an absolute meal of it. It was a penalty, and the sending off was very harsh. And Miles Judd, his one late in the game as well. It was a thunderous tackle on Zane Bannon, but he got the ball. It was a good old-fashioned hard tackle, and he got a second yellow for it. I thought both their reds were a bit tough, and they don't need that with a mess there in at the moment. You two might see them differently.
I thought the first was a red myself, but it's nice that we're not talking about decisions going against us this week. It's been recent weeks. It felt like it's always been against us, so it makes a bit of a change. But I think even with 11 men, I think that Dover they just struggled to create anything at all, didn't they? And they just looked like a side really, really struggling, like Lee said. And Dylan Berry barely made a save, did he? So I don't know if the reduced men made much of a difference in the end, to be honest.
No. What about the lineup? Sean Jeffers on the bench and Karen Wiltshire on the bench.
Byron, I sort of get, because I think he's been off the boil a little bit of late. He's not made the impact that he has done early on in the season. Smith come in and obviously set up the goal with a delightful ball inside the fullback as well. So no surprises there for me. Jeffers, there's this thing here now, isn't there, that Nobby isn't reliant on Jeffers as much as Ian was. I think he alluded to it in one of his post matches. He likes the balance of Mitch and Cooper up front, and it's working. I mean, you know, people might not like it, the fact we're leaving a 24-goal striker on the bench, but it's working. The balance of the side is good. We're winning games. We're still creating chances. Leaving out Jeffers isn't at the minute to the detriment of the team, which is the most important thing.
No, it isn't. Ben Smith came in, as you mentioned earlier. Now, we're liking what we've seen before, but I thought he actually got sucked in along with the rest of them, just playing the ball sideways and backwards. We needed to get at them because they were ready to be taken. I think we all agree. We should have got at them more. Yeah,
but I think that he'll grow with time. The more games he gets, he'll grow. He hasn't played that much. I mean, I haven't seen a great deal of him, if I'm honest. But I've liked what I've seen. But I think the fact that, yeah, I know what you mean, getting sort of sucked in, but you're just biding our time. And maybe that's how Nobby wants to sort of play. You can't just sort of go gung-ho at every opportunity, because just pick them off. And they were there for the taking. And we've seen it before in previous games at home when we start playing balls that aren't there to be played, and then we lose possession, and before you know it, they've gone and scored. So, you know, there's a balance there. And Smith, he's just getting back into the thing of it. You know, he's just getting back into the match fitness of it all. So, no massive criticism from me. I like him. But most importantly, I like the fact we've got these players who can come in now and hit the ground running, and it does not affect the dynamic of the team.
He's one of our own, isn't he? He's not a lone player. He's one of our own.
Aren't they all, though? Aren't they all?
What about the crowd? 2,079. That's not too shabby, is it?
Really, really good. And I thought, you know, compliment the club. I thought everything was very smooth on the day. No massive queues. All really run really well. And it was a nice atmosphere. And that was really, really good. You know, on previous occasions we've had big crowds, it's not really been a great experience at Clarence Park, but it was all really good. I think really good crowd. And I think it's just great to see them all come out, especially when the weather was a little bit topsy-turvy. And we actually, you know, for the second time this season, we actually win at home in front of a big crowd. So many times in previous seasons, we've absolutely just messed it up. But, you know, actually doing it, really, really good.
And the rum tent took an absolute battering, fellas, I've got to say, on Saturday.
From you?
Hey?
From you?
From myself, Mr. Levy. We had a good old chit-chat. It was wonderful. It was all amicable. It was lovely. Saints won. Sun was out. Happy days.
Credit to the Dover supporters. They turned up in numbers, considering the run they're on. I thought they were a credit to themselves. They did well. Let's face it, they've not got much to cheer, have they?
Absolutely, and I think they're probably one of the better away supports we've had at the Clarence Park this season. So fair play. I say, don't think they enjoyed much. I think most of them on Twitter afterwards were talking about how they were disappointed that they didn't get to go to the waffle tent, and that's genuinely they put that. So you know, unlucky boys. Maybe next time.
Stand next to you, Jake. It's the same thing, isn't it?
He was queuing that one up for you, mate. Oh, you queued that one up from an absolute beauty.
Ryan Blackman, our new captain on Saturday. A good appointment?
It's weird, isn't it? Because the thing is, I mean, yes, I mean, it didn't affect him. But the thing is, I think in previous guises, and like those midfielders, those creative midfielders, just want to get them and let them on and get their job. You know, to leave them to do their job. Leave the captaincy for maybe someone at the back, someone a bit more vocal, someone a bit more commanding. But he did the job perfectly well. But I think the idea of this archetypical captain in non-league terms now, it doesn't, you know, long are the days of, you know, your Kevin Mudd and your Martin Duffield, etc., big, hard ball winning men. I've got no problem with it, mate, because the thing is, Jeffers has been a captain by example, should we say, without being particularly vocal. I think Blackman he's going to be pivotal, isn't he, for us going forward now. So he's going to play more often than not. So he makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what he's like vocally on the pitch, but to me it looks like a decent appointment. Just need to cover him with, when he gets his order suspension. What about you, Jake? You go along with it?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really good to see that he signed a permanent deal a few weeks ago. I think that's really, really important signing. And yeah, I think he might not immediately come across as a leader, but I think the last two games, especially, he's been at the heart of the post-match celebrations with the supporters who always run straight over and stuff like that. And really important to have that connection, I think. And he's an experienced man in the middle. And also, I wonder if he's come in last few months. I wonder if he's offered Nobby, a fresh opinion, a fresh view on the team, a fresh someone he can bounce off of on the field when Nobby's shouting those instructions. So, I think he could be a really good appointment. And like Lee said, I think we wouldn't be shocked to see the sort of captaincy sort of revolve around different members of the squad. I think going forward, depending on who's starting.
And there was a debutante last Saturday, Aidan Francis Clark from Luton Town. They shifted a whole load of players out, apparently. And I think you were saying earlier, Lee, before we got going. Had a decent first game, I thought.
He looked composed, didn't he, for someone so young? He read the game fantastically well. He won't shirk a challenge. He doesn't mind getting his boot in either, which is always good. Yeah, so he was part of the young Luton side that won the Beds Cup last week, and as soon as they won that trophy, there's a core 5 of them, and they were the deals had been sort of done that after they won the trophy, they were going to be sort of sent to various corners of the 3 counties to play, get some sort of first team experience. And thankfully, I think we've got an excellent deal there because, listen, you don't play for Luton Town if you're a poor player, and thankfully they've got an amazing youth set up there, and we've got an absolute gem in our midst because despite the fact he is so young, he came in and he seamlessly just slotted in, and he is definitely one to look at for the rest of the season, certainly.
Right, moving on from there, they were one side that was struggling, went on to Havant Waterlooville. Now there is a side very much struggling. 9 games without a win going into last night's game at the Park. A change of manager recently with Paul Doswell really being forced away from the bench because of what's happened elsewhere of him. 12-match ban from the FA from a few unwise words. Jamie Collins, former player, came in as manager. He's got a very tough job. Talented squad. But I felt last night, after the first quarter hour, 20 minutes, they looked lively early on. They were pinging long balls. They weren't doing short passing. They were looking to get behind us as quickly as possible. But when that failed and they went a goal down, because we got 2 cracking goals last night, when they went behind, their heads went down. And they've got a big problem in lifting themselves. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, sort of pretty much polar opposite of two sides at the minute, wasn't it? Saints coming now, hitting form, while Havant have just absolutely slumped. And as you say, that first 15-20 minutes, I thought was quite an interesting contest because it's the first game in a little while where we've seen a team sort of come out at us first half and impose themselves on us. But I said we saw it out fairly comfortably that first 15 minutes. There was a bit of a panic from a bit of a corner. But after that, we did well and we started to impose ourselves in the game. And as I say, by sort of 22 minutes, sort of we had the control, didn't we? And we were knocking the ball around, just trying to look for openings. And as you say, 2 quality finishes and sort of Tafari Moore's goal start off with. Brilliant goal, wasn't it? And what's great about it is it's Tafari Moore that sort of initiates it all with that burst from the left through to the middle, that ball out to the right, and he just drifts into the box and absolutely superb header, wasn't it? And it was it just set us on our way, didn't it, with that goal?
Well, let's face it, if you're going to leave somebody alone because there's a cross coming in, Tafari is probably the one you're going to leave because not exactly known for his heading ability. Ooh, what a lovely finish.
Oh, brilliant. And I sort of, when it went in, I was like, is that Tafari Moore that's done that? That's absolutely brilliant. But it was a perfectly placed header as well, wasn't it? The goalkeeper had absolutely no chance. And I think what was great as well, we didn't sit back after that goal, did we? We kept looking for that second to really, kill the game off the way it ended up. And it was another superbly worked goal.
Yeah, the second goalie, well, a cracker as well. Great work by Mitchell Weiss, and a nice close range finish by Shea Cooper. What's that? He's got 5 now in 13 games. That's a pretty good loan signing.
Yeah, and I think he's now reaping the rewards of all the hard work he's set previously in previous games. You know, he's missed a couple of opportunities in the matches prior, but you know, he scored a good goal against Ebbsfleet, and he scored a couple now. You can see, you know, he presses from the front. He embraces the whole ethos that Nobby's trying to bring, you know, to the side as well. Mitchell has come in and he's been phenomenal, and they're both teamed up. That pairing is going to be, you know, absolutely majestic, isn't it? You know, and we can see now the benefits. They complement each other extremely well. You see the intelligence actually of Cooper, because you know that Mitch is going to whip that ball in, you know, and he knows where he's going to be, and he knows where he needs to be. And if he carries on playing like that and just anticipating as well, he's going to get loads more goals for the end of the season.
It's Mitch's speed, wasn't it, to set the goal up? He just left
Yeah.
them for dead, and the perfect low cross and a great finish. Karen Wiltshire came back in for Ben Smith. Is that a case of bringing in an experienced player against an experienced team? They might not be playing well, but they've got a lot of experience in there. So poor old Ben Smith, a youngster, makes way for an older head.
I think absolutely. I mean, as you say, they're in poor form, but that sort of Havant midfield, you know, they're pretty much, you know, pick the best players from some of the best teams in the division with that midfield, you know, and put them into one squad. And it's not working at the minute, but it had been working up until January. And, you know, that points tally they had gotten fairly quickly. And they had a very good team. Well, they have a very good team. And as I say, Kyan Wiltshire is the kind of player you want in there. He's so experienced at this level now. And I thought the midfield worked really, really well. And it was a key part of how Havant couldn't get back into it. And Dave, you talk about those long balls. They worked pretty well that first 20 minutes. After that, Havant's long balls just didn't work at all. Almost every time, either they were offside or it just drifted out, because they just couldn't play through the middle. There was nothing there because they had Kyran and Blackman winning tackles, imposing themselves on the game, and it was absolutely perfect. And you talk about Mitchell's role in that goal. I think that goal almost perfectly sums up why you sometimes have Mitch starting ahead of Sean Jeffers, because it gives you that option to run in behind and whip those balls in, because you wouldn't have seen that necessarily from a goal scorer like Sean Jeffers. So really, really good.
Yeah, you mentioned Sean again there, Jake. What's that? 95 league games I think we've had since he joined us. He's only missed 3, and that's the first one not through injury where he hasn't played at all. Left on the bench for the whole game. Nobby was obviously happy with what he'd gone with, and you can't blame him, can you? After that first 20 minutes, half hour, they didn't really look like scoring. We did, but we held back a bit again. But 2-0, you can't complain. That's a good win over them, and 6 points off them as well.
No, and it's easy to forget second half we hit the post, didn't we? And also Kyan Wiltshire had one that he should have scored just before he got subbed off as well. Don't know how he managed to miss that. And I think as well, Lee's indicated it and Nobby mentioned it last night in his post-match. You know, we will need Sean Jeffers in this final 6 games. There are some really tough tests coming up. And do you want to risk him against the Havant side that didn't really ever look like getting back into that game if you can comfortably see it out? You know, we've got tougher tests. You know, we'll talk about on coming up, but Saturday at Chippenham is going to be a really tough game. That could be a game where you want someone like Sean Jeffers. So, you know, why risk him?
The one thing I will say, fellas, is that so Doswell, when I walked around the side of the ground, Doswell in the second half, he was outside the tea hut, what was the old, or is now the club shop. So he's very much still hands on, and he's barking out orders. Because don't forget that club shop, that patio area extends further onto the pitch than the dugouts do. And he was right up there, and he was marshalling that back line. He's still having a massive impact. What I would say about Jeffers and his availability, Nobby, if he's going to do this, he's going to do it his way. You know, not everyone's going to like it, and it's exceptionally brave, you know, but it's paying off, Tabs. You know, you have people how can you leave Jeffers out? The thing with Jeffers is that he commands. Normally they just double team him, and he can't get a sniff half the sort of time, you know, and automatically your star man's out of the game. So Cooper is probably more of an unknown entity to some of these managers and the teams around our division. So and he's getting the fruits now because him, Banton, Weiss, Blackman, McConnell when he comes on, you know, Devontae Stanley, Moore, you know, we can list off these names and they are all threats. They are all threats. And we've not had that now for quite a few seasons. And that maybe is taking a little bit of pressure off of Sean. He'll still get goals. He's still the main man. And as you said, Jake, we will need him. But at the minute, the team comes first and it's performing really well.
Sean's got 70 goals in 112 games. Now, Nobby's not going to replace that unless he gets messy. He's not going to get a player in who's going to score that rate of goals. So he's got to hope. But the way he's doing it now is players chip in all round. And so they get a combined total. And that's why it's happened, isn't it, over those last 2 games? 3 different goal scorers.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's absolutely perfect, isn't it? And, you know, you can't, these last 2 games, you know, up until these 2 games, we were bemoaning our home form, weren't we? And sure, we've not played 2 amazing teams, but that's 2 wins on the bounce now at home, 2 clean sheets, and look where it's pushed us up into the league. Suddenly, these last 4 games, you know, we were talking about our draw against Cheshunt isn't amazing, and it wasn't, you know, but suddenly these 4 games, a decent run, and you're up to 5th, and you're within touching distance of teams above as well. So I think, you know, take away the Sean Jeffers bit for a minute. These last 2 games, I think they're going to be really, really important in the overall picture going into these final 6.
Tabs. If I was going to be critical, I would still say the Dover game in particular, I thought it was still really, really wasteful. The chances. Now, we're fortunate in so much that they were a poor side and it didn't cost us the game, unlike previous home games as well. So, but I think that's where Jeffers sort of comes into the equation. We're still creating chances, and whether it be Cooper or Weiss or whoever on the end of them, as long as we're still creating chances, I think Nobby alluded to it last night, is that the fact we were 2-0 up, we were allowed to relax against Havant, you know, and we see a different mindset now where if it's 1-0, we still push it because we still want to literally put our foot on the throat of the opposition and take it to them. When it's 2-0, you've got a bit more of a cushion. And as you said, mate, you know, they're not going to pull up any trees in the near future. They're a poor side. So I think that we are quite wasteful, but I think at the minute it's not costing us games, which is important.
Yeah.
What nearly cost us, Dover, we should have pushed forward more in that second half, made sure we get that second goal, and there were more goals to be had. There's no 2 ways about that. But we played a way that saw us keep possession of the ball rather than get at them, which is what we also did against Cheshunt earlier in the week. Second half, we should have pushed on at them. We left it till the last few minutes before we upped the tempo. No, we should have got at Cheshunt a lot earlier. I think they're probably a better side than Dover and probably even better than Havant at the moment. Might not be attractive, but they got a game plan. They know how to play to it. But Tuesday, Havant was a bit more promising in that we seemed more determined to attack. And you could say these 3 games where we picked up, 2 wins and a draw, has got us back up into excellent position, 5th in the table. All come against sides out of form. But a run started down at Bath, who were banging form. And that's really kicked us off. And you're going this Saturday to Chippenham Town, 13 games, I think it is, without a win now. Not without a win, without a defeat. They're the most informed side in the league, apart from Ebbsfleet probably. It's going to be a proper test again. We've got to make our chances count Saturday, you feel?
Absolutely, but I don't think any of the players are resting on their laurels, and I don't think Nobby is either. I think that real sense of this is building now. We can actually go from here, and it is going to be really tough. And even after that, look at the games we've got coming up. Tough tests against. It's a hard running. You know, it's certainly not the easiest in the division, is it? So you know, that's the way it is. We've just got to play every fixture just as a standalone game, and it's going to be really interesting to see how Nobby looks at things on Saturday. But what I think is great as well is we can, like Lee mentioned, 20 minutes ago, is that pressing from the front. You can see that constantly throughout the game now. And even in the last 10 minutes, McConnell, Cooper, whoever was on the pitch, they were pressing Havant in their own third. They were pushing them back as far as possible. And almost every challenge was met with a massive roar from the Saints fans behind the goal. and it's just really, really good. And Nobby's now got a blueprint, hasn't he? He's got that sort of plan that, you know, can get us somewhere.
Glenn McConnell, what you mentioned him there, Jack, he only came on 76 minutes against Havant, and he put 2 balls through, which were sublime, except fantastic defending, cut them out. They did really well to stop those. And you felt if he had been playing against Dover, we would have got that hatful, because they wouldn't have lived with him at all. I'm a big fan of him. I'd love to see him in the starting lineup at Chippenham on Saturday. But can you see Nobby changing it now? We haven't got a midweek game next week, so is he going to bring Sean back? Is he going to bring Glenn in?
Well, who would you bring Glenn in for?
That's the thing, isn't it? I don't think he'll do it. I think he'll leave Glenn on the bench. I can't see him changing that side there as it is at the moment. I don't see Sean getting in on Saturday either.
But it's the beauty, though, isn't it? Now, whereas before we were like bringing in people, and you know, it wasn't an upgrade. You know, we're bringing in players now who can impact the game from the start. And okay, Jeffers has been dropped, Cooper's been dropped, Banton's been dropped, Weiss has been dropped, McConnell's been dropped, but yet the people that have come in their place have done a good job. You know, and we are replacing good players for more good players. It's not as though we're sort of trying to force a youngster through from the academy to make his impact. You know, that isn't the platform for this at the minute. We are challenging for playoffs for a place in the National League. And in order to do that, we're going to need good players, a squad of good players, not just 11 men. And at the minute, I do feel as though we've got that.
Yeah. If you look at last night's starting 11, 4 of them are not one of our own. They're lone players. I know we've talked about this before. It's a strange situation.
Yeah, but these are quality players, you know.
They are quality, no doubt about it. Yeah.
But I think what we are doing, we are all learning. You know, they are learning as players. You know, in terms of professional game and, well, you know, semi-professional game, first team games, and I think the club are also learning about the resources we have at our disposal and how we can tap into these little pools of talent locally as well. I haven't got a massive problem with it. I know that people are sort of saying, well, you look, that they're taking the place of, like, you know, a local youngster who's come up through that academy. That's great, but ultimately, you know, you've got to play the best players. And it's an education for us all. I think we're all sort of learning how this is all going to sort of work. And if we get into the national, mate, it will just continue, because there's no way we can afford to have those sort of players on our books in terms of contract, but we can definitely have more and more coming in. It's nothing new. Every club does the majority of it, those that are full time, and you know, they're always sort of tapping into the Norwiches and the Lutons and the Watfords and all of that, mate. And it's going to continue.
Because it's changed from how it used to be days gone by. You sign a loan player and you got him for 28 days. Now you're signing him for half a season or a full season. So I'll let you come in now, Jake. But so you can plan for the season ahead, but beyond that, you can't really include that player in your plans.
Yeah, and I think we last season, didn't we? Particularly at times, we sort of said, why isn't Ian Allenson bringing in some lads on loan? Why isn't he strengthening the squad in areas that desperately needed it? And now we are, and I think we can see the impact it's had. You know, Colin Tom sent us a message the other day showing us the squad that played Boreham Wood in the FA Cup. And the quality of player and the overall squad now that we have built over the last 6 months, it's amazing, really, to see how much depth we suddenly have. And we talked about it last season, we talked about it this season. You're not going to challenge for a top 7 finish without a bit of depth. And we've seen that, haven't we? And it's not blocking pathways, is it? Look at Ben Smith. He's coming through. He's getting chances in the first team. You know, Hugh Dawson's around. He's probably not necessarily made the step that he maybe thought he could have this season. But these players are still involved. So it's not blocking them. And at the end of the day, I want to see the club building.
Mate, if you think about it the other way, because Lancashire and Detrolia have signed for professional sides. So it's not as though it's a detriment to them, is it? It's just the fact of the matter is there's been, you know, a need for these kids in the professional game, and they are going to advance their skill set. They're going to become professional footballers over the course of time. And as you say there, mate, sorry to interrupt. Ian, we criticised him because even if he did get someone on loan, it wasn't until like the last week of that 28 days we'd see him play.
Yeah.
You know, and it was almost a tick box exercise for Ian. You know, Ian plays who he wants to play, whereas Nobby now is looking to create a culture in the club. It doesn't matter who they play for or who their parent club is. The fact of the matter is, the scouting set involved at Clarence Park have done a fantastic job in getting these young, talented players who are making us a serious contender now for the playoffs.
Yeah, it's interesting the recruiting of these loan players because goodness knows how many months it's been now. Club's been looking for a new director of football, so we haven't got a director of football going to these clubs getting them. Is it the clubs saying, look, we're putting, like you mentioned Luton there, putting a load of players out, and they're saying, do you want any of them, or have we got contacts somewhere? I don't know. Do either of you?
Well, there was a couple of scouts, weren't there, who have put on their LinkedIn page that they're scouts for St Albans City and they cover like a certain area. But that's good. That's, you know, that's what we need. Director of football, the title can be misleading, maybe, perhaps at times. But as long as these young talented players keep wanting to come and play for our club, and they're not just playing for 28 days, we've got them. We know we've got them for 6 months or 3 months or whatever it may be. That gives Nobby enough time to put them in for a game, drop them for 2, or bring them in for 2 games and drop them for 2. You know, just see how they're going to sort of pan in the whole greater system of things. And it's a delight to watch because the players we've had to date, touch wood, you know, they've all made telling impacts to the side and the season. And hopefully we're celebrating with them come May.
Right, looking forward to Saturday, Chippenham Town. 7 previous visits to Hardenhuish Park, Jake, without a win. Are we about to break our duck, do you think?
I have great memories down there, do we? We've had some really terrible games down there in recent years. Well, it's a tough one. Really, really tough. But we've got to go there confident, haven't we? We've said this so many times this season after we've won, let's go to the next game really confident. But we have to. And it's going to be, you know, our away form is very good. And we always play well against these sides that are in form. So why not, you know, fancy ourselves against Chippenham? It's going to be difficult. They've had an amazing run. They sort of pulled themselves away from danger and pretty much secured their position for the season. It's going to be really difficult. But, you know, a win like Tuesday night, really good atmosphere and great celebrations at the end. I think the players are going to be on cloud 9 at the minute, and they're going to be going there full of confidence.
You mentioned the away form. Only not Gravesend, whatever they're called these days.
That's not their name.
They're the only ones that have won more away games than us in the National League South this season. But of course, it was against them, Nobby's first league match as manager after he temporarily replaced Ian Anderson at that time. And 6 minutes into injury time, Will King, with his only goal of the season, denied us victory. So a little bit of revenge there. Nobby can get that long overdue win against them. But goals, they're knocking going goals now, but they haven't got an out-and-out goal scorer. I've got 3 players on 5. They haven't got one like us with 25, like Sean's got in all competitions. And what Mitch has got, is it 7 or 8 now? I think he's got 7 and Zane's got 8. So their threat's going to come all round. It's not going to be one marksman to look out for. But I fancy us to keep this away run going.
That's the positivity that we're here for, Tabs.
It'll be really interesting to see what he does with the team, won't he? I mean, something in the back of my head just thinks he might start Jeffers on Saturday. I don't know why. I don't know if it's the pitch. I don't know if it's the opposition. He'll look at you know, Chippenham, and he'll look at see if can Mitch's runs behind have the same impact they've had against Dover and haven't they? Might do. But if not, he might fancy someone like Sean that can just hold the ball up a bit more and get those players around him involved. So it'd be really interesting. And as you've hinted at earlier, Dave, he's also got that decision over in midfield, hasn't he? He's now got sort of 2 players in Wiltshire and Ben Smith that he seems to doesn't mind interchanging. And so it'd be really interesting to see what he does with the team. I think otherwise I can't see the team changing much. I think Francis Clark in 2 games has cemented his position in the back 3, hasn't he? Just immediately straight away. And aside then from that, I don't know what more Nobby needs to change which we're in such a fortunate position to be where we are at the moment.
But as and when he does introduce Jeffers into the fold, he's going to be like a beast unleashed, isn't he? He's got not a point to prove. That's wrong, but he's definitely going to want to just remind people that he's still the main man, and that he's still one to be feared. I agree with you, Jake. I think Jeffers comes back in on Saturday. I just think that he's going to add something a bit different at the minute, and he's going to be absolutely chomping at the bit to get that yellow shirt back on again and take it to the Chippenham defence.
Sean has played against Chippenham 4 times since he joined us, and he scored in all 4 games. Everywhere of him.
There you go. Happy days.
Good omen.
Yeah.
Good omen. Love a stat,
Right,
man.
what about prediction?
How did we get on last week, Tabs?
I checked this on the other computer. I haven't checked it. But
You're
I
two
expect you
computers.
probably.
Ooh, look at you.
But I would think you got it right, Lee, and Jake got it wrong. That's normally how it works.
Yeah, well, there you go. So, I'm going to be a bit pessimistic, if I may. I think we're going to come away with a draw. So I'm going to go for maybe a 2-2.
Right, Jake.
3-1 Saints.
No. Let's go. 1-0 Saints. 1-0 Saints.
Okay. How are you getting there, Jake? Because with the rail strikes of late, you've had some fun getting to games, I think.
Yeah, but there's
no rail strikes. Is it easier Saturday? No?
It is easier, although there's no trains from St Albans. So anyone that is planning to go from go by train, you want to go via Hatfield. But minor detail. But yeah, I think just for any Saints fans that are going, make the most of this. We said this earlier in the season, but there's not many seasons where we are. Enjoy it, make the most of it, because who knows where we'll be next season.
Yeah, we could be doing a Maidstone. I mean, I don't mean sitting bottom of the table. I mean playing in the top division. Get it right?
Oh, that's good, isn't it, Dave?
Actually, that season we had one season, as younger ones won't know. Even Jake probably don't know. Well, we had one season in the Conference National. We finished bottom of it, but we got 40 points, which is still the record by the side finishing bottom of the table. So
what a season!
It wasn't a complete disaster. Yeah, what a season indeed.
It was a season. I mean, it's because where are you going? Don't forget that we had Charlie. We're going to Swindon Supermarine away, or we're going to Egham away. I'm going to go to Oxford City. I'm going to go to Dagenham and Redbridge, and I'm going to go to Chesterfield. It was brilliant. It was a real up and down season, and I think after it sort of got this sort of time, the squad got a bit thin. We couldn't really train, and it was just the fact that we were just running on fumes. And I think this almost goes back to the point we were saying about the squad, not only the size of the squad, but the quality of the squad. Because the quality of the squad back when we were in the conference wasn't great towards the latter echelons of the year. But I think this is now, to reiterate what sort of Jake says, buckle up, because this could go anywhere this season. And it's been a joy to watch. It genuinely has. So let's see where we go. Onwards to Chippenham.
Well, one doesn't want to count one's chickens before they hatch. But if we are in the top 7 at the end of the season, you want to be in one of the lower places to make sure we get an away game. Would you want a home game with a big crowd behind us?
I think an away game is always fun because it's the journey, and more often than not, it's what I would call the hardcore fans, the regular fans. They sort of tend to make those sort of trips, and we're a bit more noisy, we're a bit more rambunctious, fueled by lots and lots of rum. The home games are better for the club because they can really sort of ramp up the expectation, ramp up the promotion, bigger crowd, everyone's there for us, obviously. But that said, I think the home form, have we seen signs of it sort of turning now, where 2 wins on the spin, played good, still creating good chances. I don't think we've got that monkey on our back really anymore following the last week.
I think a home game in the playoffs puts a lot of pressure on you, funny enough. And you look at our
Mm.
form of the last 20 years, when we had, Haybridge, sensational game down there, you remember it, Lee, and an even more sensational one away to Bedford Town. Then we
Oh.
went to Histon, of course, that was neutral ground. And then you come forward to the Southern League games when we had Cambridge City.
Mm.
And then Cheshire United, all the way away from home. And
Yeah.
we turned up on every single one in numbers on the terraces and
Yeah.
turned up on the pitch, banged in the goals. And what would you fancy, Jake?
It's really, really difficult, isn't it? But the way after this recent run, it's really opened up, hasn't it? That sort of top 7 now. You could finish anywhere. We could finish 10th. We could finish 3rd. It's ridiculous. So it's. I think probably want a home game, don't you? Really, but I say our record as away games in the playoffs is absolutely unbelievable. But at this point in the season, it's all about just taking every game as they come and just trying to win every game, isn't it? You know, we can't worry about where we finish in the playoffs as long as we're in there and we get that extra game at the end of the season that we've all been crying out for since we got promoted back in 2014. It would just be absolutely brilliant, you know, just to get it, even if it's just one playoff game and just see how we go. It would be absolutely superb.
Excellent. A lovely positive note.
Gosh, look
Right.
at
Are we done?
that. I think so.
We are. We are.
Oh, on that delightful note, we will speak to you again next week, hopefully, after another St Albans City victory. Thank you very much, everyone.
See you later.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.